Buster Drayton, the champion, and Matthew Hilton, the 21-year-old Canadian challenger. Hello, I'm Jim Lampley, and this is about which we at ABC Sports are very excited, largely because of the nature of the fight. To borrow from basketball terms for a moment, you won't see any cautious zone defenses being played here today in the ring. The two men you're about to see are likely to go right at each other man to man, and each one brings an intriguing personal story into the fight today. For more on that, our ABC Sports boxing expert, Alex Wallow. Alex, two very interesting young men.
Jim, indeed they are, and it's a classic example, this fight today, of something that happens a lot in boxing. A veteran fighter trying to hold off a young, hungry kid. And the big question that will be answered in the ring here today in Montreal is it too soon for Matthew Hilton? Has he been rushed because of his power into a fight against a cagey, experienced veteran champion who has too much skill and too much experience? Buster Drayton is the oldest reigning champion in boxing today. And at age 34, in the 10th year of his professional career, he's kept himself in tremendous condition. But at that age, there comes a day when you wake up and you just don't have it anymore. It'll be interesting to see how much Buster Drayton has left. And it will be also interesting to see how Matthew Hilton performs really in the biggest fight up to date of his professional career. He's fought a lot of good names, but nobody at the peak of his career, or at least with the skills left that Buster Drayton has. He'll be tested today, and if he has the skills, he'll give Canada a champion they've waited an awful long time for.
It's kind of interesting, isn't it, that Buster Drayton, the champion, fights here in Matthew Hilton's home environment. But, of course, in the economics of boxing, that is not all that unusual. You, Alex, incidentally, were last here, 11 years ago?
11 years ago for the Olympic finals in this building. It's the last time I've been in Montreal. I think it's going to be a real exciting fight. I don't expect it to go the distance, but these two guys are bombs away. They're both very powerful. Conditioning could well be the factor.
All right, Buster Drayton, as Alex has already mentioned, is the oldest champion in the sport of boxing today. He readies now for the third defense of the title he won in a fight with Carlos Santos, a man who was once a journeyman and became a champ. We'll have that story when we come back. There was a Philadelphia fighter who came from a tough neighborhood and realized his dream when he became champion of the world. Now, the real Philly fighter from the toughest of neighborhoods, Buster Drayton, is the IBF Junior Middleweight Champ.
You remember we grew up around here, we used to fix bikes over here, fix bikes on Miss Brown payment. You know, but the funny thing about it, though, is remember the days you used to try to teach me how to fight? You know, but I caught on pretty fast because this is a neighborhood where all champions come from, like Tim Witherspoon, his brother Anthony, Earl Hargrove, myself. You dig what I'm saying? But the funny thing about it, though, is after all that time, we sit back. Remember, we used to live over here, and, you know, this neighborhood has changed so much. And wow, man, look at it now. Haven't things really changed? This is where it all starts off at, a friendly game of basketball. Next thing you know, you're in a fight. I'll tell you one thing. Once you get in a fight here, you're ready for the ring. You're ready for the world. You're ready for everything. And this is my start right here.
At 18, Buster signed up for the Marines, where his fighting was redirected from the streets to the ring. And he met with some success, although he wasn't in love with boxing. Later, Drayton went to college studying business law and worked in a Philadelphia bank. But his parents persuaded him to give boxing another chance. Drayton's confidence rose when marvelous Marvin Hagler told Buster, his sparring partner, to pursue his own career. Drayton had joined forces with a fellow Philadelphian, Ivan Cohen, and with help from trainer Bobby Boogaloo Watts, he went on a roll. Considered only a journeyman fighter, Drayton turned his career around in 1984, scoring 6 straight knockouts, including a stoppage of contender Mark Kaler in the 7th round. By 86, he was rated the top junior middleweight contender by the IBF. And when the title became vacant, he made the most of it by decisioning Carlos Santos in a wild slugfest for the belt. In his first defense, he stopped former WBA champion Davey Moore here in the 10th round. He's had one other successful defense since, but Buster remains unaffected by it all.
I don't know what feeling you're supposed to feel when you're world champion. You know, I don't even know what feeling you're supposed to feel. So therefore, I look at everybody as equivalent to myself. I don't put myself over nobody, nor do I put myself under nobody. I respect them just as they respect me.
Beyond boxing, his other love is working with children.
Who played hooky?
Ralph.
Well, how you know he played hooky? That means y'all wasn't in school if y'all seen him playing hooky. A lot of adults, or should I say grown-ups, they underestimate the knowledge of a kid. A child is smart. And after I learned about how smart a child really is, I just started getting into kids. I started getting into children. I started believing in their ideas, their ways. I know how to get in their world. And when it's time for me to be an adult, I know how to be an adult. You know, so therefore, this is where my time is spent.
Buster Drayton is no Sylvester Stallone, but he is a real people's champion. And a gentle, congenial man who now prepares for another violent defense of the title he won so improbably in June 1986. And on the opposite side of the forum, in another hallway, surrounded by members of his tight but troubled family, Matthew Hilton readies for his first big chance. Been well established in their past support of fighters like Yvonne Durrell, Clyde Gray, and George Chuvalo. And it is apparent here in the forum again today for Matthew Hilton, who has been called the shining light in a family chased by dark clouds. The town of Rigaud, about 30 miles from Montreal, is home to the first family of fighting in Canada. Matthew Hilton runs the Green Hills here, ever mindful of the boxing tradition to which he is the most prominent heir. His dad, Davy Sr., himself the son of a boxer, was an outstanding amateur in both Canada and the United States, and went on to a successful pro career, capturing Canadian titles at 2 weights, before age and the tedium of training brought his retirement. Davy Hilton turned then to the fistic careers of his 5 sons, the 3rd generation of Hilton boxing. 4 of them have already had fantastic amateur careers, but trouble seems to follow the family around. Son Davy was injured in a serious motorcycle accident and is now attempting to get his career back on track. Alex was a middleweight prospect, but his fights outside the ring drew more attention than those inside. He's in jail. Younger brother Stuart was killed in an automobile crash last September, a week short of 18. Jimmy, the youngest, still an amateur who may or may not pursue boxing. But even as Matthew points toward the biggest day of his life, family remains the focus of his fighting outlook.
I couldn't do it without them. I got my left hand, and I would say my right hand is my family. If I didn't, and I can't fight with one hand. So if I didn't have them, I don't think this would be possible.
Davy Hilton oversees training, handling all the chores for his sons while guiding their careers. Matthew turned pro at 17 after an amateur career that included 106 wins, no losses. And while ringing up 18 straight pro victories, Matthew stopped 14 opponents and exhibited a deadly left hook. He used that weapon to great effectiveness against his first name opponent, former middleweight champion Vito Antuofermo. After a one-sided battering for 4 rounds, Vito was retired in his corner, a bloody mess. Father Dave then put his son in against Wilfred Benitez, the 3-time world champion, who, though over the hill, was still thought to be too much for the young Canadian. But 9 rounds changed that opinion of Matthew Hilton.
They were criticizing my father, as they had done before, for pushing us too quick. If he wasn't taking us too slow at first, then he was pushing us too fast. But we had great confidence in our father. Especially me, I had great confidence in my father, and I knew what he was doing. And if he put Marvin Hagler in there with me a year ago, I wouldn't have minded. I would have had confidence in him.
He's hungry. He wants to win. He doesn't know what losing is as yet, and I hope he doesn't find out.
Matthew's trainer is former WBA heavyweight champ Jimmy Ellis, who's been close with the Hiltons since Davy Sr.'s amateur days. Jimmy has no reservations about the outcome of today's fight.
He's a top fighter. He's ready to go for the championship, and he will be the heavyweight champ of the junior middleweight champ of the world.
Is that a prediction?
It's not a prediction. That's going to be a fact. I know he's going to be champion.
It just seems like it's another fight. It hasn't sunk in that it's a world title fight. Hopefully, by the time that bell rings for the last round, or if the fight does go 15 rounds, when they raise my arm, I guess maybe then it'll sink in.
And now, Matthew Hilton, surrounded by family members, prepares to leave that hallway on the side of the forum where the Montreal Canadiens traditionally dress, and to enter
the inner arena and head toward the ring. Dressed in Stuart plaid, he will wear Stuart plaid trunks in the ring. It has been written here that no fewer than 450 members of the Hilton extended family will be in the arena today to root for this 21-year-old boxing prodigy, and no doubt when he emerges from the tunnel and is seen near the ring, the crowd will try to make it sound as though they are all Hilton family members. Matthew Hilton has been in 26 professional fights, has won them all with 21 knockouts. Prior to that, as was mentioned in the profile, an amateur record of 106-0.
Being led in there by his father, Davy Hilton Sr. That record of 26-0, Jim, does contain recognizable names like former champion Vito Anafuermo and former three-time world champion Wilfred Benitez. But those fighters are clearly at the end of their careers. A lot of people feel Buster Drayton is at the end of his career as Hilton comes into the ring. I was saying a lot of people feel that Buster Drayton is at the end of his career, but I think he's got a lot more fight left in him at this stage than did either Vito or Wilfred.
So would it be your belief that Matthew is being rushed?
No, I think he's ready. He's been seasoned. He's had a long amateur career. He's been brought along very carefully. At some point, you have to fight. You have to take a chance and fight for the title. You can't protect him forever. You have to throw him at this point and find out if he can fight. And there's the man who's going to find out today.
Yep, there's Buster Drayton. There's the record, 32 wins, 9 losses, 2 draws. There was 1 no decision early in his career, 24 of the wins by KO. The record is misleading in this regard. Drayton has won 16 of his past 17 fights. The only loss to James the Heat Kinchin back in 1985. We'll find out more about both fighters when the fight begins when we come back. And now we bring you back live to the Forum in Montreal as ABC Sports presents Schlitz Malt Liquor Professional Boxing. I'm Jim Lampley along with Alex Wallow. We prepare for the IBF Junior Middleweight Championship bout between champion Buster Drayton and challenger Matthew Hilton. In the ring announcer Robert Ribest has begun the customary bilingual introduction which precedes all sports events here in the province of Quebec. And you get a close look at 21-year-old Matthew Hilton. Alex, some keys to the fight.
Well, I think the key to the fight is in the early rounds, Buster Drayton has to be able to weather the storm that Matthew Hilton is going to lay on him. Matthew, if he does not get intimidated by his first title fight, is going to come right off his stool and throw hard punches, especially the left hook to the body. He's going to try to take away any legs and any movement from Buster Drayton and then try to really take him out early. Buster Drayton is traditionally a very slow starter. And the question is, can he weather that early storm and then use his conditioning and his experience to come on in the late rounds? And can Matthew Hilton maintain his peak of performance and level of performance through those late rounds? He's never been a 15-round distance.
You heard the crowd responding there to the formal introduction of Hilton, who will get several ovations of this type and of this magnitude as events lead up to the opening bell. Again, if you've joined us late, it has been 44 years since Canadians have been able to appreciate a world boxing champion of their own. The last was a featherweight named Jackie Kalura, who held that title in 1943.
You hear the crowd booing the champion, Buster Drayton. Buster's used to this. He does not get intimidated by crowds. In fact, he's fought his last 4 fights since winning the title, including 2 title offenses in France. So coming to French-speaking Quebec is not any big change for Buster. He's used to being on the road. He's used to fighting the young hotshot. You see him smiling there. This is familiar territory.
Won the title in the Meadowlands in New Jersey and then fought twice in Paris, once in Cannes and once in Juan-Latin. In the fight in Cannes, Alex, against Saad Skouma, Drayton was in trouble in round 9 and indeed trailed on all 3 official scorecards before he scored a TKO of Skouma in the 10th round. Could that have been seen as evidence that he is indeed pressing close to the end of the line, as you suggested at the top of the day?
It is evidence of that. It's not evidence that he's there yet because he was able to recover it, never went down, took some hard punches from not a great fighter, but a hard punching fighter, recovered, was in good enough shape, kept his legs, came back and knocked out the opponent in the next round, the 10th round. So he has great recuperative powers, but the more punches you take in the course of a career, the less recuperative powers you have to come back with.
Tail of the tape now, and you will see once again the dramatic contrast in age. Drayton 34, Hilton 21. There is a small height and reach advantage for Drayton, which will probably be nullified, at least in the early rounds, by Hilton's sheer aggressiveness. He'll come right at him. IBF rules synopsis. The fight is scheduled for 15 rounds, scoring on the 10-point must system, done by 3 judges with a non-scoring referee. 3 knockdown rule is in effect. And there will be mandatory 8 counts, but there are no standing 8 counts. The referee is Denny Nelson of Minnesota, and 2 of the judges are from the United States. The 3rd is from Canada. The bell sounds. Round 1 begins.
You might have noticed Matthew shaking his arms in the corner before he came out. He said all week it hasn't hit him yet that he's fighting for a world title. But he looked to me in the ring with all the pressure of this crowd and the fans of Canada on him. He looked a little bit tight. He looked to be shaking his arms, trying to get himself loose. Both these men, one young, one old, like to have a feeling out first half of the first round. They don't even need the whole first round. Matthew likes to take his time early and then come on late.
Crowd chanting Matthew, Matthew. Wild right misses.
You will see a lot of wild rights from both these men. The important thing is they don't get discouraged when they miss. Buster Drayton will throw 10 punches just to land 4. And he won't shorten up his punches. He won't sacrifice power for accuracy. These guys just throw bombs.
Hilton missed with the left hook, but scored twice to the body there. The right to the body connected. And now Drayton begins to fend Hilton off with the jab.
Which is not a punch that Buster has as a regular part of his arsenal, but he's just picking with it. He's trying to let Matthew know that it's there.
Oh, what a right hand! A sensational combination by Matthew Hilton. And referee Denny Krause issues the count.
That's the right hand that Matthew Hilton is not supposed to have. He caught Buster Drayton flush with it, and Buster Drayton is in desperate trouble.
More than a minute to go in round 1. Drayton trying to get his senses back. Uppercut inside, connected.
Solid, devastating right hand to the body a few seconds ago by Matthew.
Good left hook to the ribs.
Buster is not firing back. He's trying to cover up. He is not clinching. Buster Drayton does not clinch, even when he's in trouble.
The assault by Hilton continues. 34 seconds to go in the round.
Hilton's still hurt, but Matthew has not hit him with that clean shot. He has to hit him, I think, with one solid shot or maybe a combination to get him out of there. And I don't think at this time, late in the first round, he has the time left to do it.
Drayton effective there with the peekaboo as he seems to have weathered the storm. Hilton tried to get through it with the uppercut, couldn't quite get it done.
There's
But
the
a
bell.
spectacular first round for 21-year-old Matthew Hilton. And now Bobby Boogaloo Watts will go to work to try to revive Buster Drayton in his corner. Let's take another look, Alex, at that combination which delivered Buster Drayton to the mat.
Watch for the right hand. Boom! Left hand underneath, the right hand right on the button. Matthew Hilton must have tremendous power. He's knocked a lot of people out, but he hasn't knocked out anybody with the gin and the experience of Buster Drayton, and especially to put him down this early with one punch. He is really an accomplishment.
Well, the phrase in the sport is heavy hands, and it has been said of Hilton that he has it. Another angle.
You saw the left of the body was a distraction. The right hand really did all the work.
The young man knows his business. He didn't pause to watch Drayton fall. He walked right to a neutral corner. Round 2 begins.
We said at the top, it was a matter of whether Buster could weather the storm. We saw some storm in round 1. Matthew has to be careful to make his punches count. Not get knocked out happy, not waste energy.
Obviously, Watts told Drayton he'd have to mount some offense to try to keep Hilton off of it.
Interesting, Jim. Matthew did not come out quick in this round. He had his man hurt with a full minute to go in round 1. But here you see him, the crowd whistling a little bit. You see him almost backing up. Fighting cautiously, just the way he did the first half of round 1. Left to the body. Drayton trying to cover.
Both shots partially blocked by the elbows. Drayton is having to become very conscious of the body. There is Jean Hilton, mother of Matthew, matriarch to the Hilton boxing family.
Matthew Hilton has a reputation as somebody who's very easy to hit, but Buster Drayton hasn't been able to land anything of consequence thus far. Picked away with a few jabs, but when Buster Drayton is fighting in his typical style, he is winging wide, arcing punches like that one, especially with the right hand.
Got the jab through. Matthew delivering each shot with purpose, and the left of the body wobbled Drayton again.
Wobbled him, but he's still smiling and still throwing punches and a good right hand. Landed by Drayton, and Matthew fights right back.
Good left hand by Matthew Hilton as he backed away. Drayton scored a body shot.
Pressure on. He knows best what's going on with his own body. He may be a little bit tired, may sense himself. He knows this is a 15-round distance, whether it's going to go that far or not. It's an intimidating thing.
Another right hand to the chin of Drayton, and again he seemed temporarily wobbled. Oh, what a left to the body.
Good right hand landed by Drayton in that exchange. This fight is not going to be as a jabbing contest. You just saw both fighters try him. It is probably the least effective punch for each of them.
It has been 2 rounds of bombs away, with the early edge definitely going to 21-year-old Matthew Hilton. As we are back, the 2 fighters meet in the middle of the ring to begin round 3. IBF Junior Middleweight Championship fight in the white trunks, 34-year-old Buster Drayton, the oldest current champion in boxing. And in the Stuart plaid trunks, 21-year-old Canadian Matthew Hilton, fighting before his family in his hometown of Montreal.
4 or 5 punches from Buster Drayton. Some landed. Matthew covered pretty well, and they came out with a bomb of his own.
In case you've just joined us, Drayton was down in round 1. Midway through and weathered a vicious assault to make it out of that round. Looked a little bit perkier in round 2, but still, Hilton dominated most of the round with heavy body shots. Defending a title in 100% hostile territory here today. Only in his own corner will Drayton find support. I'd like to alert our local stations that at the end of this round, we will go to a station break. Matthew Hilton has definitely slowed the pace since that wild slugfest in round 1.
He seems to be gathering himself. He seems to be pacing himself and also gathering himself. Both fighters very cautious. I think each man has felt the other's power, and they're much less reluctant to take the chances they would take against a lesser punching opponent.
1 minute to go in round 3, which has been far and away the slowest stanza of the bout.
Both fighters trying punches to the body and succeeding there. That time, Matthew tried the left hook to the body, and Buster tried to counter with the right hand. That would be an obvious punch. Matthew, and there, 4 punches to the body.
Trying to come over the top with the right the way he did in round 1. Interesting that Drayton has not yet elected to turn southpaw.
It is interesting, Jim, because Mickey Duff and the people in Buster Drayton's corner saw Matthew Hilton at a 10-round fight in Madison Square Garden last year, in which he looked, fighting a fairly ordinary fighter, the only left-hander, looked like he was having trouble with the left-hander. Buster switches very fluidly. I'm surprised, too.
We'll return with more of ABC Sports Slits Malt Liquor Pro Boxing after this from your local station. Live in Montreal, where the usual 1 minute between rounds is being counted at about 55 or 56 seconds today. And as round 4 begins, Matthew Hilton continues to try to build on the lead he's established in the first 3 rounds against IBF Junior Middleweight Champ Buster Drayton.
Really slowed considerably. There are those occasional explosions.
Drayton landing a right hand on the face of Hilton there.
But as we said last round, it looks like both fighters have felt the other's power, and they're just not ready to leave the other man punching opportunities by trying punches of their own.
Just to pick up on the point that you were talking about at the end of the last round, Alex, Drayton's people did believe, after having seen Matthew Hilton against Tato Ramos in New York last year, that he might have more difficulty assaulting a southpaw than a conventional fighter. And Drayton does switch well. He did it a lot in his championship-winning effort against Santos. It's a good defense against the left hook. He hasn't done it here.
Buster is a sparring partner for marvelous Marvin Hagler, who obviously switches, as you know, so beautifully and so fluidly. You almost don't notice him switching when he does to the right-handed stance in Marvin's case. Buster has the same capacity to switch. I think he's just concentrating right now on doing everything he can to stay out of the range, not thinking offensively as much as he is defensively right now. And trying to get out of these early rounds and let Matthew Hilton get tired.
2 minutes have now gone by in a very tentative round 4. Far different complexion now for the fight than that which existed in rounds 1 and 2. It was an all-out war. And now it's Hilton who goes down.
No, that will not be called a knockout, I'm sure. He's just be comfortable putting him down with his right hand.
Okay. So no knockdown.
Low blow and no warning from the referee by Matthew Hilton, well below the belt, and that is not the first one. There, for a second, Buster Drayton had his right foot forward, the left-handed stance, but immediately went right back. Good right uppercut by Buster.
Even though Hilton was not counted for a knockdown, you can see that Drayton has begun to score much more effectively now in the latter stages of round 4 than at any previous time in the bout. 4 rounds completed. We'll be back. Back live in Montreal, round 5 of this scheduled 15-round bout begins. A bout dominated early by the 21-year-old challenger in the Stuart plaid trunks, Matthew Hilton. In the latter part of round 4, Drayton began to pick up the pace, and Alex, for the first time in the fight, I scored round 4 in favor of Buster Drayton.
Well, I thought Matthew dominated what little effective punching there was early in the round. Buster scored a couple of good shots late. You have to think right now that Matthew Hilton There's power for the first time since round 1.
Another low blow.
And Matthew this time smiled. You hit me, I'll hit you, and we'll find out who's got the more power. Watch your head, says Buster. You can hit me with your punches, just don't butt me. Matthew let Buster back into this fight. He may still come on. He may still have the conditioning and the stamina to stay with Buster and perhaps stop him in the late rounds and continue to score and win rounds if the fight should go to a decision. But he let his man off the hook, and he let Buster Drayton back in this fight. He may have just felt himself fading, getting tired from the effort that he expended in that first round.
Again, Hilton smiles at Drayton after taking the right hand.
They are smiling. This is not fun.
You hear Bobby Boogaloo Watts, Drayton's trainer, screaming from his corner. If the name is familiar, of course, it's because he's one of 3 fighters ever to have defeated Marvin Hagler, along with Willie the Worm Monroe and, of course, the recent victor, Ray Leonard. Doesn't choose to warn fighters for low blows, or his view isn't quite good enough. There have been several.
By both fighters, because Matthew's arsenal is dominated by the body punching, he's going to throw more. The referee has been non-existent in terms of controlling that. Again, Matthew putting on a big spurt. Can he sustain it? Can he sustain it? And I think that's the key to the fight. Here in the closing seconds of round 5, he looks a little tired.
But because of those flurries inside to the body, it has again been a Hilton round. As Matthew Hilton seeks to become Canada's first world boxing champion in 44 years. Matthew Hilton exits his corner for round 6 in Montreal. Buster Drayton trying to impose his will on a fight which he appeared to be out of in round 1, and for a while even in round 2, but in which in recent rounds he started to give a better account of himself.
The thing that has kept Buster in this fight is conditioning. He is such an avid conditioner that he wants to go right back into the gym the day after he's had a fight. And his manager and trainer, Ivan Cohen and Boogaloo Watts, have to hide his equipment to keep him out of the gym. He says it takes me all day to try to borrow some.
And of course, at age 34, 154 is the natural weight for Drayton. Hilton lands the right.
That's a slip, and Buster hit him when he was down, and Buster knows it. That right hand shake by Buster Drayton was trying to acknowledge some kind of apology to Matthew Hilton. He knew he made a mistake in hitting when he was down. It did not appear to be a powerful punch. You see Matthew bouncing now, but not punching. Redness around the right eye of Matthew
And
Hilton.
in fact, a touch of blood under the right eye of Matthew Hilton. Could be that there's a small cut there. First time in the fight that he's been marked. Drayton can see it.
You remember back to Buster Drayton's first title defense against Davey Moore. Lost a lot of early rounds, took punishment early, but he just hangs in there. He's tough. He's been through all those wars in the Philly gyms. He's sparred with, as you look at Davey Hilton Jr. there, Matthew's brother, an outstanding welterweight contender who just has not had the self-discipline to continue his career. Hopes to resume it soon.
Indeed, some here say that Davey is a more talented fighter than Matthew.
I was saying about Buster Drayton, he just has so much heart and so much determination that you're just not going to get him out of there with that one big bomb that Matthew landed in round 1. You got to be prepared to fight 15 tough rounds or less. He lost early rounds against Davey Moore, came back to knock his man out in round 10.
And indeed, some of Matthew's caution in the ensuing rounds may have come from the fact that most of his opponents would not have recovered from that first round assault. In fact, it might be safe to guess that none of them would have. Round 6 comes to a close, about increasingly more even, and we'll be back. Round 7 begins in Montreal.
Jim, I still don't believe this fight's going the distance, but you have to think through 6 rounds, you have to start to consider scoring. I think Matthew Hilton obviously won a big 10-8, maybe even a 10-7 round in the first round. He won the second fairly easily. The rounds got considerably closer, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And you have to be very careful in scoring a Buster Drayton fight because he takes away a lot of a punch with his elbows, with his shoulder, turns his head away from a punch. That right hand, for instance, he deflected it with his left glove. You have to watch Buster Drayton very, very carefully to be aware of what punches he's getting hit with. Matthew throws an awful lot of punches in his flurries. You have to watch carefully to see which ones land.
That cut under Matthew Hilton's right eye is a tiny nick. Nothing serious for now.
He has a tendency to cut Matthew, but that cut is under the eye and it will not be a factor. I think really the key thing here for Matthew is conditioning and stamina. He looks to be a little bit intimidated by the 15-round distance.
Well, I was mentioning before that clearly 154 is Drayton's natural weight, but in his last fight against Muhammad El-Tassi 2 months ago, Matthew fought at 162 pounds. Do you suspect that making 154 could be becoming a problem for him at this stage of his career?
He says it isn't. He said he trained hard down. He lost the weight through training, not through last day's sweat going into a steam bath. But stamina, Matthew throws such hard punches, and he misses a lot of punches. And a punch that you miss takes more out of you than a punch that lands. He's always had a tendency to tire after one of his big flurries and have to gather himself and come back.
Indeed, of the 21 knockouts, 18 of them have come before or during the 6th round. Only 3 knockouts from this distance on. And certainly none against an opponent like Buster Drayton.
And I think Buster Drayton, we're talking about tactics here, I think Matthew let Buster off the hook in the 2nd round. I think Buster would be good to put more pressure on Matthew Hilton right now. Except for those occasional flurries, I think Matthew is content to take off 2 minutes and 30 seconds a round. And Buster Drayton should be making him fight in that time, taking the stamina out of him. Buster is content right now to fight just when Matthew wants to fight or respond to Matthew fighting. He should be trying to land punches.
Round 7 has gone by rather quickly. And as it comes to a close, Hilton tries one more time to land the big punch. In Montreal. Between rounds, Davey Hilton Sr. was urging his son to deliver more body shots to Buster Drayton. Drayton is not the kind of fighter of whom you say he doesn't like it to the body. I think maybe the Hiltons just don't want Matthew to be throwing the wild, flailing shots at the head like the ones with which he ended the last round.
You see Matthew bouncing here, Jim. Buster Drayton should be jumping on him when he's bouncing. He can't punch when he's bouncing around. He's not that kind of a fighter. He's a weighed-in guy, sets his feet, lets his punches go. Whenever he starts that bouncing, he's trying to take time off the clock. He's putting his own stall in that we talked about we didn't expect to see in this fight. But in fact, it has happened. That's when Buster should come on like this. Now, Matthew's going to explode. No, he didn't. Buster should be putting more pressure on him.
But you make a good point. Early in the fight, Hilton followed each Drayton assault with a more vicious assault of his own. That time, he simply stood back up and waited for more.
Let's go!
Bobby Watts yelling at Buster Drayton.
Let's go, Buster!
Crowd trying to pick Hilton up.
There you go, now we're working. Come on back.
Matthew missed the left hook. Buster tried to counter with the right hand and missed it. That's a pattern that I thought we'd see a lot more of in this fight. Matthew missing a left, throwing the left, and Buster countering with his right. Here's Buster picking up the pace a little bit. And Matthew responding with 5 or 6 punches to the body.
To alert our local stations that we'll go to middleweight title. You've got the oldest current title holder in the sport against a young man who could become the third youngest existing champion in the sport if he can win. Of course, the youngest existing champion in boxing is Mike Tyson.
You just hear the power in those Hilton body shots. There still appears to be bounce, as you saw there in the Drayton legs at age 34, perhaps plus. But those body shots have to have an effect. The left to the body. And again low, and again nothing from the referee except to break the clinch.
Not a word from Denny Nelson in the bout about low blows, of which there have been dozens.
And there was one from Drayton.
The slugfest continues. We'll return with more of ABC Sports Let's Malt Liquor Pro Boxing after this from your local station. Round 9 underway, and between rounds, Mickey Duff and Bobby Boogaloo Watts in Drayton's corner turned the urgency level way up. They want much more business from their fighter. They want to see him mount an assault against Hilton. Exactly what you've been suggesting, Alex.
He just is fighting the pace that Matthew wants to fight. He's letting Matthew dictate the pace. He'll try to respond when Matthew does something, but in between, when Matthew's taking time off, he just isn't putting pressure on. He has to put pressure on, or his championship is going to slip away from him.
That's precisely what Bobby Boogaloo Watts and Mickey Duff told him. He'd worked too hard to earn the title to let it slip away this easily. Now Drayton starts to try to turn it up, and again, here comes Hilton to the body.
His punches with both hands. I think Matthew's right hand, which used to loop, he used to really not put that right hand right down the pipe, has become a much better weapon for him, both to the body and, as we saw in round 1, to the head.
There are 3 champions in this weight class. Mike McCallum holds the WBA championship. Dwayne Thomas holds the WBC championship.
Once again, the crowd got very excited. Buster picked off 2 out of those 3 punches. It may be that today is the day that Buster climbed through the ropes and he just didn't have it. Whatever Boogaloo Watts and Mickey Duff tell him to do, he just may not have the physical resources at this stage of his career to turn up the burners.
Indeed, because he's 34, Hilton was regarded as being fortunate to get this title shot. He probably wouldn't have wanted to put him in with McCallum, who will fight Donald Curry later this summer. Dwayne Thomas.
Now, just very subtly, Buster Drayton just took a good punch to the head. Began to back up Matthew Hilton, but he couldn't sustain it. Matthew Hilton cannot fight backing up. And if Buster could consistently back him up, I think he could dominate the fight. But you saw Matthew stand his ground and reverse the trend.
We will be staying here between rounds, and we'll visit Buster Drayton's corner first. Drayton pins Hilton against the ropes for a moment, but then is driven away.
I know what you're trying to do, Denny, but you know what you got to do? Listen to me now. Okay? Listen to me now. If you don't get busy, you're going to lose this fight. That's right. Because you're away from home. That's right. You're with me in the goddamn joint. That's what you got to do, what you got to get now. If you get cold, it's tough shit. You've got to work. You've got to work and shoot through the middle. You've got to fight to knock him out, not just to hit him with 2 set of bad punches. You've got to stop him. Come on. Take your breath. Come on. Slow. Let it out slow. One more. Matty, when you back him up, pay attention. When you back him up, he's got no legs.
You can't do nothing. You got to keep him
You
going
got to
back.
come back, your right hand, but come back with your hook. You got it? Double up on punches.
You got to keep him going back all the time. Keep your hands up.
The man outside the ring was Al Braverman. The man inside the ring is David Hilton Sr.
And of course, there is no delicacy or gentility in the language in a boxing corner. Round 10 begins. Hilton with a clear lead on the 10-point must system. Drayton tries to turn up the heat again.
And you heard Buster's corner tell him he's got to knock him out. He's fighting away from home. He has to have a knockout to win. Round 10 may be a little bit early to make that decision, but they're trying to motivate Buster. They're trying to get him out there to throw power punches. Drayton has thrown fewer power punches in this fight than I think I've ever seen in his career. He usually wings punches like that, hard punches, especially with his right hand. But I think that the right hand that Matthew Hilton landed in round 1 made him very leery of doing that. He just didn't want to give Matthew that kind of open punching opportunities in return. Good left hook by Drayton at the end of that combination. Very few of the early punches landed, Jim, but that finishing left hook did. And Matthew looking to clinch.
Drayton trying to come on a little bit now. We're midway through round 10. Incidentally, we remind you, coming up after Slits Malt Liquor Professional Boxing, ABC's Wide World of Sports today, the U.S. Outdoor Track and Field Championships live from San Jose, California. Also the Irish Derby. That's coming up next on Wide World. Most of these ABC stations. Track meet, incidentally, should be terrific.
Buster Drayton scoring for heavy punches for the first time in a while and putting punches together for the first time.
And he landed a solid right hand in there to go with the left he landed earlier.
Always a question in a fight like this how Matthew Hilton's chin is. He hasn't really been tested by big punchers. He seemed to take those punches pretty well, but he is very willing to clinch. Buster Drayton should be making him fight.
Hilton staggering just a little bit, more from fatigue than from the effect of Drayton's punches. But for the first time in the fight, Alex, to me, he looks really tired. Not just coasting, but very tired.
Matthew you're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah, he does look tired. He's taken more punches in this round than he has in any round previous. He's loading up for those bombs. It's just a matter of being able to sustain that kind of power.
The tide turning slightly as round 10 comes to a close in Montreal, and we'll be back after this. Back live in Montreal, the champion Buster Drayton in the white trunks and the challenger Matthew Hilton in the Stuart plaid trunks. Into round 11.
This is the first time that Matthew Hilton has ever seen the 11th round. For all Buster Drayton's long career, because he won the championship so late in his career, the only time he has gone 15 or past 10 was the fight he won the title in, the 15-round decision over Carlos Santos. Jim, at the end of 10 rounds, I have it 6-4 in rounds for Matthew Hilton. But remember, the first round was a 2-point round, so he is ahead 3 points at this stage. On my scorecard, entirely unofficially.
The same way. And that would mean, incidentally, if we happen to be in the neighborhood, that Drayton may not need a knockout. He could win the last 5 rounds. He might yet be able to retain the title on points.
That presumes that these judges have not been affected by this crowd here. Judges have eyes, they also have ears, they're also human. And it's possible they've seen it differently than we have.
It's also possible that somebody scored the first round 10-7.
That's correct.
Another low blow from Hilton. Met with a similar non-response from the referee to everything that's preceded it in the bout. punch, and that's probably not going to do it now.
I saw Matthew, you might have seen him just there when he shoved Buster back in the ropes. He blinked his eyes. He blinked his eyes in when he came up for round 6 also. You saw the heads meet right there. I don't know what that is. Drayton responding. Matthew trying to come back himself.
Another low blow. Hilton starting to look exhausted.
He's able to gather himself, and he's able to flurry and maybe steal rounds with these flurries because the crowd reacts so loudly to them. But in terms of the actual action, he isn't able to fight much more than 45 seconds, a minute of each round. The key for Buster Drayton, if he wants to keep his title, is to dominate the other 2 minutes. Hold his own when Drayton's flurrying, cover up, and then come back after he misses and try to get after him and get on him when he's tired.
All right, now let's stay right here. And this time we'll go to Matthew Hilton's corner first.
Now you're cooking, boy, you're cooking. Give me that phone. Put that thing on. Stay still. You gotta bring it back, man. You gotta push it back. Put your tongue out. Forget that, Jimmy. Forget that. Back to the rope, but don't wind up on it. Lose our balance. You get off the combination. Run and punch it. Push him up. Get ready. What you saying? You got 9 minutes. Hold his fucking hand up. You got 9 minutes. The crowd. 9 minutes, Buster. 9 little minutes, man. When you out there, you're gonna push him off. And move that off. Okay, Buster. All right. Okay, man, but you gotta forget about it, but this is it.
Fascinating. They just told Drayton he's got 9 more minutes. Of course, he's got 12 more minutes if the fight goes the full 15 rounds. Have they miscounted Alex, or they might be conning him a little bit?
They're so busy trying to inspire Buster and get him aggressive and getting every ounce of energy after him. The calculation doesn't matter. The volume level does.
With the body again. He can do that early in a round with the surge of energy he gets from a 1-minute rest.
But it may have a lot to do with Buster's inability to generate any offense the rest of the round.
Every round that Hilton wins now is another nail in the coffin of Buster Drayton's World Championship.
Hilton Sr. say to his son in the corner, don't wind up your punches so much. That would be a total change in the middle of a championship fight for his son. His son winds up his punches, as you can see there. That's his style. That's his strength.
But I do think Davey would like to see just a larger punch count, not the 1 punch at a time. It's been Hilton's situation for the past few rounds. Midway through round 12, and this has been Matthew's round so far. Another flurry to the body. Drayton not nearly as busy now as he was in rounds 9, 10, and 11.
Saw the Hilton strength as he just pushed Drayton back. He's backing him up. Now, you see Matthew is just trying to rest right now to get up the strength to throw that 1 punch. He's tired right now. If Buster Drayton himself had the strength, he could steal this round right now by putting on a big finish. But at age 34, after absorbing a lot of tremendous body punches and a first-round knockdown, it just may not be there for Buster Drayton.
Matthew Hilton has won round 12. He may now be just 3 rounds away from winning a world title. for a moment in the first round to be headed to a spectacular early knockout victory, now tries to finish up against 34-year-old champion Buster Drayton. IBF Junior Middleweight crown on the line. In case you've just joined us, we repeat, no native-born Canadian has held a World Boxing Championship since 1943. Matthew Hilton can win this fight today. This crowd will rise in spectacular and tumultuous support of him.
Jim, that flurry here midway through round 13 clinched this fight for Matthew Hilton. It means that Buster Drayton would have to score a knockout to win, which he has to do on my scorecard. And it just doesn't look at this stage, unless Matthew gives out completely. He's tired here. It just doesn't look like Buster Drayton has the strength or the energy to be able to stop Matthew at this stage of the fight.
But if he can muster anything at all, it is by no means certain that Matthew Hilton is going to be able to stand up through 15 rounds. He's very tired. But I agree with you. On my card, Hilton has clinched the bout. Drayton has to score a knockout to win, the way I see it. Here comes Matthew again.
If you want to look down the road at Matthew Hilton, I don't want to concede him the championship. Buster Drayton, the crowd really is into it now. They think their man has it. If you want to look down the road at Matthew Hilton's career, this 21-year-old kid is going to have to learn to shorten up his punches. He's just throwing them too wide and too often and too predictable and telegraphing them too much. Some fighters are going to really take advantage of those defensive liabilities. Buster Drayton has not been able to do it today.
But what a learning experience this has been for Hilton today, who probably thought he was headed for the early knockout and has had to steel himself and fight an entirely different fight. We'll be back. Round 13 in Montreal. Round 14 begins. Jim Lampley with Alex Wallow in the ring. Buster Drayton defending his title against Matthew Hilton, IBF World Junior Middleweight crown. And in a Montreal rabid for a Canadian champion, with the crowd responding the way it has today, it is now almost inconceivable that Buster Drayton could pull out a decision. The problem for Matthew Hilton is to stay on his feet for 6 more minutes.
He's still throwing punches, but you notice he's grabbing as soon as he does because of the energy. He's very tired. Matthew, both fighters obviously are very tired. But stamina was really the key to this fight in my mind in terms of whether Matthew Hilton would be able to win a title.
What courage Drayton has shown just by absorbing these bombs to the body through 13 full rounds already.
Buster Drayton picking with the jab. He isn't going to jab his way to a victory. He has to take halfway through round 14, and in the last round, he's going to have to throw bombs. He just tried one with the left.
Hilton leaving himself wide open when he throws those shots.
Really silly. The fighting spirit of Matthew Hilton taking over. It's a terrible strategy. I mean, he has to know, he has to feel, he has to sense. His corner has told him he has the fight. The last thing in the world you want to do is go out there, get in a toe-to-toe training contest, and risk getting hit by a lucky shot, especially when you're tired, as Matthew Hilton is.
But he's a violent competitor. He wants a knockout. It's his instinct to go for it.
He's a fighter. And I think that's what this fight has proved. Sometimes a young up-and-coming kid, a hot shot, sometimes gets put in with a lot of setups and he never learns how to fight. You don't know how he's going to react when somebody takes his 13th round and perhaps the distance, and Matthew Hilton stood in there despite being bone tired at times, and continue to try, as you say, for the knockout, Jim.
Low blow by Drayton. Very low blow. Seemed to bother Matthew a lot. Round 14 coming to a close. We'll stay here. 3 minutes to go.
Buster Drayton thinks this fight is over. You remember we gave a false count. I don't know whether Bobby Watts was deliberately giving him a false count to try to get him to go hard in round 14, or if Bobby Watts just miscounted. Buster Drayton thought the fight was over. He put his arm around Matthew Hilton and walked him back to his corner. He now knows he's got 3 more minutes.
There is not a soul seated in the Montreal Forum. You're looking at a 21-year-old who could become his country's first world champion in 44 years. He's got to stand up for 2 minutes and 45 more seconds. What a battle.
And again, Matthew not sitting on his lead. He is just wide open. But he's still trying to stop his opponent.
You will seldom see a more spectacular demonstration of sheer courage and competitiveness on the part of two boxers. Both are completely spent. They've got little left to throw. Hilton tries again for the knockout.
And again, Buster Drayton tries to respond. But in his mid-30s, the oldest champion in boxing today just does not have it. This was the day he came up empty, not just because of himself. He conditioned himself as well as he could. He fought with all his heart. But he came up against a young, tough kid who just had too much.
He's going to lose this title. A great story comes to a close. And another great story begins. commercial. We'll be back. Back live in the Forum in Montreal. 34-year-old Buster Drayton of Philadelphia is a great gentleman. He will hold his championship for about 5 more seconds.
Le juge de veto, 139, 139, 146, 146. Le juge Cormier, 140, 140, 144, 144. Le juge McDonald, 138, 138, 147, 147. Le gagnant par décision unanime et nouveau champion mondial des poids moyens juniors. The winner by unanimous decision and the new IBF Junior Middleweight Champion of the world, Matthew Hilton from Rico, Quebec, Canada.
He's 21 and a half years old. He is Canada's first world boxing title holder since a featherweight named Jackie Kalura held that championship 44 years ago. There is a man of great grace and dignity who fought with great courage today and lost to a better fighter. Alex Wallow is in the ring, seeking to get a word with Matthew Hilton. There is a tremendous mob scene ongoing there. And now let's go to Alex right now.
Matthew, congratulations. When you knocked him down in the first round, Matthew, did you have any idea to go the distance?
I didn't expect him to go distance at all. My father thought I could have knocked him out. After I knocked him down, I just got swinging for every punch a knockout.
Did you tire at that point? Did you deliberately pace yourself? Were you afraid about the 15 rounds?
I wanted to go for the knockout, but my father kept telling me, relax yourself, man. You're ahead, you're ahead.
In the final rounds, it looked like you were going for a knockout when you were clearly ahead, taking chances that weren't necessary. What was that about?
I'm a fighter.
That's right.
And unless my father's worried about it, he'll tell me, move. Fight if he thinks I got to fight, because we don't know. My father's from the corner. If we think we didn't, if we're ahead, that doesn't matter. It's what the judges see. And me and my father full that dream here this afternoon. And we're one of the happiest guys in this world. And
congratulations, Matthew. Thank you very much.
I just like to thank ABC and all the supporters in Jersey and Vegas. And I just like to tell everybody we did it.
You did do it. Congratulations to you. Back to Jim
ABC
Lampley.
Sports. Thank you very much, Alex. Thanks to Matthew Hilton. ABC Sports.